But what they do with it is so clever. Like there's one episode where Peter leaves for too long, and actually, they start to get concerned. And he comes back to Neverland and he has Wendy's daughter while Wendy is still a kid. How fucking surreal is that? I mean, that's just so strange, and she has to confront the fact that one day she will return and she will have a daughter, and but she has to leave at some point. I mean, these are adult issues. These are like really big issues. There was one where they go into this some sort of cavern or something where like all lost things are. Like if you ever lose something, that's where it is. And one of the things that's down there is Hook's childhood. These are such clever ideas. I mean, they really go with this thought of what if Neverland was a real place, what if these kids were real and all these characters, and they just totally do every idea you can imagine. And like any show, there's some, lame episodes and sometimes the animation's not good, but when the animation is good, it's really good. That's the TMS animation they do a lot of the times. It's really good. The characters are great. They're so enjoyable. These stories and these setups are so creative, and they are so imaginative, and I just think, man, they got a lot of episodes out of it, and the fact that these people were allowed to do this and they didn't have to worry too much about commercial success, about or getting more celebrity voices or anything, or playing down dumb to the kids or anything like that. They could just sort of do whatever they wanted. It really shows, because it's just a really, really great series. In Living Color. Now, I liked this show a lot more than Saturday Night Live, probably for the fact that they kept it short. All they had was a half hour. They filled up that half hour wonderfully. It never felt stretched out. It never felt like it was padded out. It never felt like anything was filler. It felt like, here's a funny idea, do the funny idea, and then go! Your next sketch. This show was so good at that. I mean, it knew exactly how long to stay and when to leave. They told the joke, and they didn't overstay their welcome. They just went on to the next one. It was really, really smart that way. It was so smart to keep it a half hour. But on top of that, all the stuff that everybody talks about, the people on there, Jim Carrey, Damon Wayans, Keenen Ivory Wayans, David Alan Grier is very funny on that show. I'm gonna sound like such a jerk. The white woman, whoever that was. I feel so bad because I don't know if she went on to anything. I never see her anywhere. But if you watch these shows, she is fucking hilarious. Like, she is one of the funniest things on that show. Anytime she has a character, she just... Watch her. She is so funny. I'm so sad that she never got as big as, like, whatever, Jamie Foxx or Jim Carrey or any of them. But she's very funny. Or, I mean, maybe she's still making people laugh. I don't know where she is. Maybe she's doing fine. But, well, whatever she's doing, she deserves a lot, because she's very, very funny. And just about everybody on the cast is so enjoyable and just having a great time. And a lot of the issues they're talking about, the racial issues and stuff like that, and having fun with it, I like that it's not always just beat the crap out of the white person, or I mean, it's sort of looking at everybody involved with race and every problem they can find. But it's also just, sometimes they want to do a funny joke, and it has nothing to do with race. It's nice that you can go there. It's like you don't know exactly what you're going to get. A lot of it is going to be racially based, but it's also going to make fun of everybody in general. So it's a really fun show, and like I said, I think the strength is that they kept it so short. And a lot of us grew up with it. It's on DVD. Go check it out, because it's some funny stuff. Third Rock from the Sun. Now, this is a show, I'd be lying if I said sometimes it didn't get too silly, and I love silly. Most of the time it hit just the right amount. It knew just how to hit it. There are times where it went too goofy, or there's times where I'm like, that joke could have been reworked a little better or something like that. Most of the time, this show is really solid and really smart, and I think people sort of dismiss it because it can get really silly and really goofy and really childish. It gets unbelievably childish, but I think that's what makes the show so good, is that if aliens did sort of come down here and they wanted to observe how we act, I mean, they're very much like animals. That's sort of my philosophy. I do think people are very much animalistic. And they are very childish, and since they're just getting used to all this stuff, they become greedy and they become desensitized, and they want more of the good things that they're discovering. And again, that's very much like a child. And it makes sense to me, and what I really like about this show, that's very different. Okay, well, what's the shtick? Aliens come down, they interact with people, they look silly. Well, what makes this show fun is that the people they interact off with, the people they work off of, are not just the straight man or the straight woman or something like that. They're crazy too. They're really goofy and they're really odd, and they feel normal by comparison being with these alien people. And I think that is so clever because, you know, everybody in their own way is a little crazy, is a little nuts. And I think that's what the show brings out, and it's not just like an SNL sketch where, hey, somebody's acting stupid and you just see the people looking appalled, oh, I can't watch this, oh, you know, or the Marx Brothers, or, you know, just the traditional straight man thing. No, they're crazy too. But you ask, why are they still around them? They're around them because they feel normal by comparison. I think it's a very human trait. And that's what I like about this show, is nobody's normal. Everybody's a little goofy. Even when you think that person's normal, they come around and they actually sort of get in on the insanity as well. And I love this show for that. I think it is so smart that way. It's a kind of humor that's being adapted more and more now. You see Simpsons doing it, you see a lot of movies doing it, we do it, where you think somebody's going to react a certain way, but really they're into it, you know, instead of being appalled by it. So that kind of humor is wonderful. It's just a lot of fun. And like I said, I will admit sometimes it gets a little too silly, but when they hit that right note, which is like 80% of the time, it's just the right amount, and it is, for as goofy as it gets, it is a very smart comedy. Malcolm in the Middle. Now, for whatever reason, they made one DVD package of the show, and then they stopped. They used to have it in syndication, but again, they stopped. And I remember when the show was going to go off the air, they're having the big series finale, it was never built up, because it was being taken off at the same time as that 70s show. That fucking 70s show. I'm sorry, if you like it, that's great, but they were building up that thing like mad. Like, that 70s show, the show that defined a generation, definitely not the 70s, because it had nothing to do with the 70s, it's being taken off. Here's an hour-long special dedicated to the cats. They're all going to talk about when they first came on. So Malcolm in the Middle got just a normal half-hour show, and all it got from the advertising is, on the series finale of Malcolm in the Middle, this happens, bye! That was it. No big send-off, nothing great. And this is a show that had much better writing, much better characters. It was so solid. These people are unforgettable. There's so many of these funny characters. The visuals are great. The writing is great. Everything with this show was great. And I don't know, the more I think about it, maybe it's very fitting that it got that sort of send-off, because it was always, the way they wrote everybody, it was always the underdog. These are the underdogs, they're the unappreciated people that are going mad, you know, trying to just make their way in life, and everybody just sort of looks at them and goes, whatever, you know, barely notices them. So maybe it's fitting that it went off this way. Maybe it was actually very apropos. In my opinion, it deserved much more, because these are some of the funniest characters. That Francis kid is so funny. The mother is so funny. Reese is so funny. The husband/father is so funny. And something else I never noticed on that show that they did at the very end, I never noticed, was when it's Malcolm going up, he's going to make a big speech to the graduates, and they say, and now, you know, the person's going to make the speech, Malcolm, and the mic gobbles it up or something like that. I realized you never know their last name. I never realized that throughout the show until the last episode. And stuff like that, how they keep those little running jokes, is so great. I mean, you don't need to know their last name. You know, this can be any family, any just crazy family that's trying to get by. And they never catch a break either. In every show, always at some point, they catch a break. You know, Roseanne, they win the lottery or something. You know, something good happens to them, whatever, to get ratings. They never catch that break, ever. And that's great, because they just have to suffer through it. They just got to get through it. They have to say things that people don't want to say and don't want to acknowledge, but there's still this hope that they'll get through it, and this absolute confidence that, it's not even hope, it's this confidence that they will. They just know they have to suffer. And that's very, very solid in the show, knowing that we're always going to have to suffer, but that's how we get through it. You know, we're not going to stop. We're not going to, you know, just go off and complain and never have anything happen. We're going to suffer, but that's how we get through it. And it's that mindset that's both really depressing and really uplifting. And the show really shined with that. It deserves so much better. Get those on DVD, because it was a great show. Animaniacs. Now, of course you all know I'm a huge fan of this show. I mean, good God. Why am I even talking about it right now? I've talked about it so much. I'll make it quick. It's Animaniacs. I mean, it was a show that combined both sort of adult humor and childish humor and just put together in that same energy that made the original Looney Tunes so fantastic. I loved watching it. I love watching the animation. I love how free it is. I love the music. I love the colors. I love the humor. I love the characters. This is a great show. I think the only other thing I'll say about that maybe I haven't said about it is that I was talking before how I really like interactions off of certain characters. That's why I really like the yearly anniversaries. I like seeing everybody work off of everybody else, and I like seeing, you know, oh, how will Angry Joe work off of the Nostalgia Chick, or how will Paul work off of Benzai, or how, you know, it's just great. You just put them together and you go. It's the same thing with Animaniacs. With their crossovers. I mean, they did crossovers too, you know, where Dot and Slappy will trade places, or Rita and Run will trade places with the Goodfeathers or something, or they'll come across each other, or they'll do cameos and stuff like that. I realize that's another area where I got a lot of that stuff from, where just these character interactions, and they did it so much that it did just sort of seem like this big group, this big family. And I think that's why you see us do cameos so much. It's not that, you know, hey, we need to do this to increase views or anything. It's that, you know, it is just like this big group and this big family, and it seems unavoidable half the time to use these people. You know, if I'm going to do a 90s joke, obviously I have to have 90s Kid in there, or something with science, obviously I have to have Dr. Insano. You know, people would kill us if we didn't put these cameos in. So that's really where, for me anyway, where I got the idea of sort of using these cameos and stuff like that, because Animaniacs did it a lot, and they did it very, very well. So, yeah, I've talked about the show a million times. Go watch the tributes or all the other Animaniacs videos. I'll talk endlessly about it. And that's it for the first 20. If you want to see the top 10 of my favorite shows, take a look. Still see if you can get whatever the first one's going to be. I'm sure it's on this page somewhere, so click on it, watch it, I'll see you there.